Deep within the archives of the Chonglu Palace, there is a room where the floorboards once soaked up the blood of a god. The wood remembers. 2,000 years, and still the grain of the planks runs dark where the blood seeped deepest. The palace maid scrubbed it 3 times. The stain returned each time, as if the earth itself refused to forget. This is not legend. The room still stands. And what happened here, in silence, in shadow, with no soldiers, no swords, just women and bamboo, this is where an empire was truly born. History is often written in ink, but the foundation of the Han Dynasty, the empire that would define China for 2 millennia, was written in this very room. In the blood of a man who won every battle, but never saw the knife coming. The year is 200 BC. China is not a nation. It is a burning cage of warlords. And in this chaos, we find a ghost. In the streets of Huaiyin, a gaunt, starving drifter walks alone. His name is Han Xin. He wears the sword of a nobleman, a symbol of the warrior class, but his ribs show through his rags. He is a walking contradiction, a man with the ambition of a god, trapped in the body of a beggar. He is so poor that he fishes in the river just to survive. A local washerwoman, Mother Piao, sees him day after day. She sees the hollow look in his eyes, not the look of a simple beggar, but the intense, burning stare of a predator waiting for its moment. She feeds him, not out of respect, but out of pity. When he promises her, "One day, I will repay you with gold," she snaps at him. "I feed you because you are a pathetic sight. A man who carries a sword but cannot feed himself is worse than a beggar. At least beggars know their place." She didn't understand. Neither did the butcher. In the marketplace, a local bully blocks Han Xin's path. The butcher is huge, reeking of raw meat and arrogance. He sees this frail man with a sword and laughs. He gives Han Xin a choice that would break a lesser man. He points to the dirt between his legs. "If you have the courage," the butcher sneers, "draw that sword and kill me. If you are a coward, crawl between my legs." The market goes silent. Here's the thing about humiliation. Most men break. Han Xin calculates. To draw the sword means murder, exile, and the end of his ambition. To crawl means the death of his honor. In this era, face is currency. To crawl is to declare bankruptcy on your own soul. Han Xin stares at him. He isn't afraid. He is weighing the calculus of eternity. He realizes that his pride is too expensive. He cannot afford it yet. So, the future god of war kneels. He lowers his head into the filth, and he crawls. The crowd explodes with laughter. They mock him as the coward of the crotch. They do not see what we see. They see a broken man. We see a creature of absolute discipline. A man who has just proven he can endure anything to get what he wants. Han Xin drifts into the chaos of the Civil War. He first offers his sword to Xiang Yu, the hegemon king. Xiang Yu is a titan, a man who can lift bronze cauldrons with one hand. He looks at the crawling beggar and sees nothing. He makes Han Xin a guard, a nobody holding a spear in the back row. Han Xin offers strategies. They are ignored. To Xiang Yu, war is about courage. To Han Xin, war is about mathematics. Disgusted, Han Xin defects to the rival camp, the kingdom of Han, led by Liu Bang. Liu Bang is the opposite of a hero. He is a peasant, a drunkard, a womanizer. But he possesses one singular gift. He listens. Yet, even here, Han Xin is initially dismissed. He is made a grain manager, counting sacks of rice while the world burns. Frustrated, realizing his genius is rotting, Han Xin packs his bags. Under the cover of a pale moon, he flees. Xiao He, the prime minister of the Han, the second most powerful man in the army, hears that the grain manager has left. Xiao He doesn't send a guard. He panics. He jumps on his horse and rides into the night himself. The frost crunches beneath the hooves. Xiao He's breath comes in white clouds, his fingers numb on the reins as he chases Han Xin down by a cold stream. He finds him shivering in the dark. He begs him to return. When they get back to camp, Liu Bang is furious. "I lost 12 generals this week," he screams. "Why did you chase this nobody?" Xiao He looks his king in the eye and delivers the line that changes history. "Generals are as common as dirt. You can find them anywhere. But for a grand marshal who can command the heavens and the earth, there is only Han Xin. He is Guaxi Wushuang, a phrase that means the only genius the nation will ever see. You don't promote a man like this. You pray he doesn't realize his own power." Reluctantly, Liu Bang agrees. He builds a grand platform. The veteran generals, men with scars and medals, gather around, expecting one of their own to be promoted. Instead, they watch in horror as the crotch crawler from Huayin ascends the stairs and takes the seal of the commander-in-chief. The beggar is now the god, and the war is about to change. Han Xin does not fight like other men. He introduces a terrifying new concept to the battlefield: the weaponization of psychology. His masterpiece is the Battle of Jingxing. He is tasked with taking an army of 30,000 raw recruits across the Taihang Mountains to attack the kingdom of Zhao. Waiting for him is a massive force of 200,000 trained soldiers, led by Chen Yu, a veteran who had studied war in books, not mud. The numbers mock him: 30,000 against 200,000. Chen Yu expects Han Xin to follow the ancient rules of war, which state, "When you camp, place a hill at your rear and water in front of you. This gives you a defensive position and a way to retreat." Han Xin does the opposite. He marches his men through the pass and deploys them with their backs to the river. The Zhao soldiers laugh. They see a fool who has cut off his own retreat. If they charge, the Han soldiers have nowhere to run. They will be pushed into the water and drowned. But this is the trap. Han Xin calls it death ground, the psychological alchemy that turns a cornered rat into a tiger. It is the same madness that makes a drowning man punch through ice. He knows that these recruits are scared. If he gives them a way to run, they will flee. But if he takes away the hope of survival, fear transforms into frenzy. The battle begins. The massive Zhao army smashes into Han Xin's small force. They expect the Han line to break. But it doesn't. Behind them, the river roars, a sound like 10,000 voices screaming. The Han soldiers feel the cold spray on their necks. They fight like demons, not for victory, but for the next breath of air. While the entire Zhao army is fixated on crushing this stubborn knot of resistance, Han Xin springs the second part of the trap. He had hidden 2,000 light cavalry in the mountains above the Zhao camp. When the Zhao soldiers emptied their camp to attack the river, the cavalry swept down. They didn't kill, they simply tore down the Zhao banners and raised 2,000 red Han flags. On the riverbank, the Zhao soldiers are exhausted. They look back toward their camp for reassurance. And they see their fortress, crowned in enemy red. The flags snap in the wind. 2,000 crimson banners, where there should be none. "The king has been captured," someone screams. Panic spreads faster than fire. An army of 200,000 dissolves into a mob of terrified individuals. Han Xin orders the counterattack. The river turns red. The impossible victory is won. Later, his officers ask him, "General, the book says back to the hill, front to the water. Why did you reverse it?" Han Xin smiles, a cold, thin smile. "The books are for ordinary men. I had to kill their hope so that they could find their courage." Han Xin conquers the north. He conquers the east. He is undefeated. He is now the most powerful man in China, more powerful, in truth, than his master, Liu Bang. Yet power, like a slow poison, had already begun its work. Han Xin assumes that because he is useful, he is safe. He forgets that he is dealing with a politician. It is the year 203 BC. Liu Bang is in trouble. He is besieged in a fortress, starving, surrounded by the enemy. He sends desperate messages to Han Xin. "Bring the army. Save me." Han Xin doesn't come. Instead, a letter arrives. In the letter, Han Xin politely suggests that the region he just conquered is unstable. He writes, "I fear I cannot keep the peace unless you appoint me as the acting king of this land." In that cold room, Liu Bang reads the letter. He explodes. "I am rotting here in this siege, and that ungrateful bastard wants a promotion?" He slams the table. He is about to scream that Han Xin is a traitor. But under the table, Yang, the quiet mind behind the throne, kicks him. Hard. Liu Bang winces. He looks at Yang Liang. The advisor's eyes are wide with terror. The message is silent but clear. If you say no, he will rebel. If he rebels, we are all dead. Liu Bang, the master manipulator, doesn't miss a beat. He swallows his rage. He transitions his scream of anger into a scream of bravado. "Why be an acting king?" Liu Bang shouts, his voice cracking. "A real man takes what is his. If you're going to be a king, be a real king." He sends the crown. Han Xin puts it on. He smiles, thinking his merit has been recognized. He doesn't realize he has just blackmailed an emperor. He doesn't realize that in that instant, between the scream and the correction, an invisible contract was signed in blood. He forced a king to bow out of fear. And kings never forgive fear. The war is almost over. Han Xin holds the balance of the world. He has the strongest army. A wandering sage named Kuai Tong, the kind of man who could see futures in the dust, comes to him. He crouches low, his finger dragging through the dirt, scratching 3 circles that form the points of a blade. "General," he says, "the world is at a crossroads. If you help Liu Bang, he wins. If you help the enemy, they win. But you are too strong for either of them. Why serve? Why not take the third path? You hold the north. Let them have the west and east. Form a tripod. Be a god among men." Kuai Tong warns him. "When the rabbits are dead, the hunting dog is cooked. Your merit is too high. No reward can match it. You are in danger." Han Xin looks at the map in the dust, but he shakes his head. "The king of Han gave me his own food when I was hungry," Han Xin says. "He gave me his own clothes when I was cold. He trusted me with his armies. I cannot betray a man who trusts me." It is a beautiful sentiment. It is also a fatal error. Han Xin is operating on the logic of honor. Liu Bang is operating on the logic of survival. History bends here, quietly, without witnesses. He chooses wrong. Han Xin marches south. He combines his forces with Liu Bang. They trap the great hegemon king, Xiang Yu, at Gai Xia. Han Xin surrounds the enemy on 10 sides. At night, he orders his soldiers to sing the folk songs of the enemy's homeland. The psychological pressure breaks the enemy's will. Xiang Yu, the invincible warrior, slits his throat by the river. The war is over. The Han Dynasty is born. The moment the war ends, the utility of the sharp weapon drops to zero. Liu Bang rides into Han Xin's camp at dawn, pretending to be a messenger. He rushes into the sleeping general's tent and seizes the command seal. By the time Han Xin wakes up, he is no longer the commander-in-chief. He is demoted, then demoted again. Finally, he is placed under house arrest in the capital, living in the shadow of the palace he helped build. The dynasty was 6 months old. It was hungry, and like all young empires, it devoured the men who made it possible. He spends his days in bitterness. He knows the end is coming. The blow, when it comes, is struck by Empress Liu. She is the wife of Liu Bang, and she is far more ruthless than her husband. While the emperor is away suppressing a rebellion, she decides it is time to clean the board. She summons Xiao, the man who chased Han Xin under the moon, the man who swore to the heavens that Han Xin was a national treasure. Now, as prime minister, he must choose between his friend and his state. He chooses the state. Xiao goes to Han Xin's home. He lies. The emperor has won a great victory, he says, smiling the smile of an old friend. There is a celebration in the palace. You must come. Han Xin hesitates. He looks at Xiao. He sees the bond of the moonlight chase. He trusts. He dresses in his formal robes. He leaves his sword at home. He enters the palace. He is not led to a banquet hall. He is led to the bell room. The heavy wooden doors slam shut. The latch clicks. The silence is sudden and suffocating. The air is thick with sandalwood incense, the kind burned for celebrations or funerals. He is alone with Empress Liu and a group of palace maids. There are no executioners, no guards, just women standing in the shadows. Legend tells us that Liu Bang had once promised Han Xin the 3 safeties. He swore that Han Xin would never die by facing heaven, never die by standing on earth, and never die by iron. It was a promise of immunity. Empress Liu viewed it as a riddle to be solved. She had the room prepared. She ordered the maids to throw a heavy cloth, a thick, stifling rug, over the great general. They hoisted him up, suspending him from the ceiling beams. He was not facing heaven. He was covered in darkness. He was not standing on earth. He was hanging in the void. And then she gave the order. The maids did not use iron swords. They picked up sharpened stakes of bamboo. In the muffled silence of the bell room, the only sound was the rustle of fabric and the dull thud of wood. The man who conquered China, the genius who weaponized the river and the mountain, was erased by a forest of silent bamboo. He died in the dark, suspended in the air, betrayed by the only friend he ever had. Listen closely. There is a Chinese saying that haunts this story. Cheng ye xiao bai ye xiao. Success is due to Xiao. Failure is also due to Xiao. The man who discovered him was the man who delivered him to the executioner. Han Xin's life is the ultimate divine tragedy. He mastered the Tao of war, the invisible current that flows beneath strategy, but he failed the Tao of power, which is colder, quieter, and always watching. He believed that if he was the sharpest sword in the world, the king would always keep him close. He didn't understand that when the enemies are all dead, the sharp sword becomes the most dangerous thing in the room. We build our empires on the backs of indispensable men. And then, when the walls are standing, we remember nothing is more dangerous than someone we cannot afford to lose. Perhaps you know this feeling. You have made yourself invaluable. You have won every battle. And late at night, you wonder, am I the sword or the threat? Han Xin never answered that question. The bamboo answered for him.